Today, I want to talk about the first female umpire for the major leagues of baseball. Well, I read an article on Friday that was describing that this was going to happen over this weekend, that the first female was going to take place. And I thought the article should be titled, "The First Female is Interested in Umping an MLB Game." And so, I just think about the interest of men and women. And even amongst men, there's really not a lot of interest in umping, being basically a referee for baseball. And so referees and umpires are a function of the sport. We have to have them. If we could get rid of them, we would. The only reason why we have them is because we want to make it somewhat fair, because we don't necessarily trust the players to do things on an honor system. There'd be fights breaking out all the time, and there's still fights that break out with umpires. But look at what happened with Wimbledon recently. Wimbledon just put in, I believe it was Wimbledon, no line judges. Basically umpires, no line judges, because they're using a technology-based system where they have all these different cameras and it reads the line judges and you can see it on the replay. If you really feel like you were wronged, you can just look at the replay. And it calls it automatically, just like an umpire would. Or the line judges would. Well, we don't have that in baseball yet. I'm sure we will have some of that soon, especially like strikes and balls and things like that. If they were doing it in Wimbledon, they're going to be doing it soon. So what article I read this morning was, because I wanted to make sure, I was like, did this actually happen? Did the lady actually end up umping in the game? Well, she did. And the article this morning was, a barrier has been broken in MLB, something to that effect. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, there is no barrier. I'm sick of hearing about these barriers for women or people of different colors and things like that. It's nonsense. And I'm going to give you reasons why I think it's nonsense. But coming back to what I was saying previously is even men aren't interested in umping. If you think that we're oppressing women by not letting them, no, women just aren't interested, because even amongst men, we're not interested. We have to. It's a nuisance. We have to. No kid grows up going, I want to be an umpire. I want to be a referee. They might start getting more interest in that, but if they really love the sport, they want to play. They want to coach. They want to be a part of the team. They don't want to be a part of the people that say, you're out. That's something that people get into because their kids are part of it. They're not interested in the sport. That people say, well, hey, if you learn the rules, you can then end up being an umpire so you can be around your kids more. They get interested in it. Hey, I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty fair. All right. I can call it like I see it. I don't get emotionally involved. Perfect. Those are the people that we want. Okay. So it's a function of it. And maybe as you get older, you start thinking to yourself, I think I would bring some of that fairness to the sport. I think I would be really good at doing that. And then maybe you have a dream. I'm sure there's men out there that have that dream, but not something that as you're a kid, you do. So in regard to women doing it, if there were more women interested in it, there would be more women in it. There would be more women there. But I also want to talk about what are going to be some of the consequences or the effect, maybe not consequences, but just the effects of this. You see it all the time. The player getting in the face of the umpire, the manager or the coach coming out and getting in the face of the umpire. You made a BS call. Their mother effing each other back and forth. Okay, you're out of here. Are the headlines, I don't know, are the headlines going to be when that happens with the female ref, the female umpire, is that going to be about the argument? They argued with each other and it was an argument? Or is it going to be and basically about the play? Was the umpire right? Was the coach right? What was going on? Or is it going to be about the man speaking towards a woman in an aggressive way? I don't know. I could see that. And I think if there was any suppression of a woman wanting to be, it's probably because they didn't want any of that. And this could be a very negative thing for the MLB. If, again, people take whatever they want, any news, they take it and they spin it how they want it. So I can see that happening. Now, on the flip side, what else could happen? I just thought of this. What if, because it is a female, the men that are playing in Major League Baseball the coaches, the managers, what if they respect her more and they, instead of getting in her face, are much more soft about how they communicate? What if this makes it a way better way for the players to interact, because there's not as much of this complaining, there's not as much of this fighting, there's not as much because of, I don't know, but I think that would be a positive effect. Now, maybe every umpire is female and we've been missing out. I don't know. But coming back to the interest in it, the way that men talk to one another, the way that we have fun with each other, bust balls, okay, as we say, that is looked at. I've seen it in our culture. The most famous one is Trump. Grab him by the pussy. That has been taken out of, just completely overblown to something that is guys messing around, getting a rise out of another guy, making a guy laugh. That way of talking to one another. And you might disagree with that, but that is 100% what Trump was doing in that argument. He did not mean you go up to him and grab them by the pussy literally. He meant when you're in a position of power, it's so easy to get women, and that is the truth. If you don't believe that, go out in the real world and see how it happens. So when it comes to men conversing with one another, women might not understand. It's the exact same thing with men not understanding the way that women talk, okay? And the way that women communicate. And this is why you have so many problems in relationships. And so I look at this and I go, I don't know what the future holds for this integration. You see this in the NBA. There's female refs. And like I said, I don't know if that helps or if that hurts, but I do know that the first time a referee or a player, pushes a female referee, that's going to be a huge headline. And that's going to be negative toward that player, toward the sport in general. And so I think that's why a lot of these things have been stick with men, because of the communication styles, because of the aggression, because of the potential threat of violence. So I don't think it's in a bad, if there was any suppression, it's never in a bad way. It's always to look out for the game, that the individual, the female in question, okay, and the perception of it from other people inside and outside. But this whole barrier thing, like I was saying, if more women were interested in it, we would have them in there, because in general, there's not enough interest in people getting to referee and do these things. There really isn't. So we want that, but people have different interests. And I'm sure there are men out there that have interest in things that are typically more interested in by female. There's men that are way more interested in some females. And just like there are some women who are more interested in things that a typical male might do than some men. Like I said, umpiring, I have zero interest. Every guy I know has zero interest in umping a game for the MLB. But she does. So it's like, hey, we're fine with that. And the reason why I say this and this whole barrier thing, and it's very exhausting because of my experience. And you can say what you want. You can give me all the statistics that you want. But this is my experience. And this is how I grew up. And no one was talking about this crap when I was young. Now they are, and it's getting annoying. And my experience was the valedictorian of my school, I'm not going to say her full name, was a woman, Stephanie, okay? And she was amazing. When we heard, so there was a test, right? And we heard that Stephanie didn't get 100% on the test, we would go, oh shit, that test is hard, okay? She got a 92, all right? She only got an A or an A minus. Damn, we better study hard, all right? If we took the test after her, because she was such a good student. She was so smart. She was also super nice, super kind, all right? Did all this extracurricular stuff. I think she was also part of the student body. Everyone loved Stephanie. And everyone thought any grade that she got was well-deserved. Any accolades she got was well-deserved. No one ever said, oh my God, I can't believe, I forget what school, say Harvard, right? I can't believe Stephanie's getting into Harvard and Johnny's not. He's a guy, she's a girl, she should be in the kitchen. Not one time. And I hung around with the most jock, masculine guys, all right, basketball, soccer, football, all right. Not one time. We didn't see, we said, she's a great student because she studies hard and she's really smart. We had no qualms about giving her credit for all of the things that she was good at. And so when I hear this stuff now, like men are out there suppressing women, if I ever heard one of my friends saying, like, talking bad about women just because they're a woman, right? If they did something bad, of course you're going to say terrible, right? We're not going to make exceptions for women. That's another thing, right? Woman does something stupid, it's stupid. Man does something stupid, it's stupid. You call it out on both sides. But this whole idea of oppressing people is, maybe there's some deep subconscious way of doing it, but it's those things over time come out because you start to realize that everyone is equal. As a matter of fact, you see it now. More women are in college because there's no difference in regard to the level of intelligence, but it's interest. And that's the difference between these things, is the interest in regard to being motivated to actually step forward and do something. Like I said, umpiring is completely different from men and women. And this is why with women, what ends up happening? They might go and get educated, but if they want to end up starting a family, they're the ones that bear the child. We can't, men can't. So they end up making partner at their law firm, and they start looking around going, why am I working 80 hours a week just to have a paycheck that I barely spend? I barely have any time off. I have no relationships. They might, I don't know, but they tend to, it seems like, at least from my perspective, value relationships and people and children and that side of things in society much more. Guys, we can get obsessed on a project, all right? And we can get obsessed with a career because a lot of times that's how we see our worth. And so women go, why am I banging my head around doing things? I'm already dating the other partner in the law firm. We already make more money than God. Me taking a pay cut and becoming, working part-time here or there is not going to destroy our life. As a matter of fact, it's going to make my life way more fulfilling because now I get to have these relationships and I get to spend that money that we were working so damn hard for. The only person that doesn't see how ridiculous that is a lot of the men. Men, we're the ones who are like, we gotta work, this is our value and stuff. And it's exhausting, all right, and it's stupid, but men are gonna be men. And women are going to be women. And that's the whole point I'm trying to make with this. If there is a point, really, I kind of am just talking as I usually do on this channel. But we have different interests. And if your interest is in something that's not typically for a male, there's nothing wrong with that. And this idea that we're oppressing people and we're pushing them down, no, it's just in the history of time, people of that sexual orientation just aren't interested in those things. And then as time goes on, more and more people start to branch off and do different things and get interested. Their interests spread because of the opportunities for people to spend their time in those avenues. And because baseball's on TV and people are, in it, that's what ends up happening. You're going to have crossover in all different areas. But like I said, with the culture and the way that men talk to each other, it's going to take special women to be able to do that. It's not the typical female, and you don't see them doing that. And that's just how things go. But to say that there's some barrier that people are pushing them down, if there was, like I said, it was doing it for their benefit and probably thinking about the game in itself. Because just imagine if a player or a manager, coach, ended up pushing a female referee. That would be the end of everything. And because there isn't the equality like people say that they want, okay, it's a one-sided affair, okay? If a woman pushes the ref, or if the umpire pushes the coach or something ends up happening, that's not going to be a big deal. It's going to be a huge deal if it's the other way around. So they were probably thinking of that if there was a suppression, which I don't think that there was. I just think that there was no one applying for that job. And if There were, again, over time, these things go away because we realize that if we're looking on the merit system, there is no difference. It's the interest that changes, and that's going to change over time. But I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that it's exhausting to start to keep talking about these things in regard to barriers. Let people do what they want, and you'll find that I think people without being pushed from outside sources, right? You should do this, you should do that, people tend to find their level. And that's why you see this even within little kids, their interests as they grow up. You don't have to force them into anything. These interests flow naturally. And again, you're going to see crossover in every area, but on the majority, we tend to find our lanes. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with men having different interests than women. For whatever reason in today's culture, we think that there is something wrong with that. And it's sad because everyone's different and everyone has different tendencies. And I don't think that we should make everyone equal. I think we should play to our strengths and let people fit in where they fit in to raise everyone. If everyone equals out, people's strengths sometimes start to go down. I say maximize your strength, and keep the whole group moving upward. Strong begets more strong. So anyways, that's all I got for today. Until next time, I'll see you then.